Hello, this is Rudy Puente, CG51 instructor and counselor at Cabrillo College. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the requirements and what it takes to graduate with a degree or certificate from Cabrillo. As an example, today I'm going to be using accounting. Accounting at Cabrillo happens to be an Associate of Science, so for short, we refer to it as an AS in accounting. The degree requires 21 units of general education, and it also requires 24 to 25 units of core courses, which are these right here. When you look at the requirements, you have to be very careful to make sure that you're picking specifically what they require. For example, Accounting 1A, Accounting 6, Accounting 16, or Philosophy 10, or Philosophy 10 honors. So you don't need all three. You need Accounting 16, Philosophy 10, or Philosophy 10 honors. Okay, so you pick from one of those three. You need Accounting 151A, 163, Business 5, Cabot 102, Cabot 110A, and Cabot 110B. In addition to the 21 units of General Ed and the core units, the major also requires that you do 9 units of approved electives, which is this right here. And so from this list right here, they're asking that you select 9 units. So for example, you can pick Accounting 1B for 4 units, Business Law for 4 units, and possibly Business 20 for 3. And that would give you a total of 11. Being over the minimum of 9 units is okay, but being short of the 9 units is a problem because you won't have enough to graduate. The last piece to this is electives. And this is basically saying any course that is numbered 1 through 199 can be used as approved electives. And for that, you need between 5 and 6 units. So when you're done with your general ed, all these core classes here, and 9 units of approved electives, and between 5 and 6 units of any kind of elective that's numbered 1 through 199, you should have a total of 60, at which point you will be eligible for an AS in accounting. Let's move to the next level. Let's say you didn't want to get an Associate of Science in Accounting because you have less time or you don't want to be in school very long. Your other option is to get a Certificate of Achievement, also in accounting. That one requires between 24 and 25 core units, which is exactly the same as a degree. So all these core units right here are required, but keep in mind, these 3 courses right here, you have options between Accounting 16, Philosophy 10, or 10 honors. So which one of those 3 will you take depends on you. But other than that, you need all the other courses. And the other piece to this is you need a 3-unit class for English from English 100, ESL 100, and English 1A, or Cabot 157. Okay, so you don't need all these 4 courses, you need one of them. So when you combine all these units right here in one of these courses, you should have between 27 or 31 units, at which point you can petition to graduate with a Certificate of Achievement in Accounting. Let's say you had less time to be at Cabrillo and you want to go out to the workforce sooner than later. Your other option would be a skill certificate. In this case, it would be in bookkeeping. And for this, you would need Accounting 151A, 163, Business 5, these 3 Cabot classes, and once again, 1 English course from this list right here. So the grand total would be between 16 and 19 units to graduate from Cabrillo with a skill certificate in bookkeeping. They also happen to offer a skill certificate in financial management. And for that, it's very specific. You need Accounting 1A, Business 18, Finance 4, and Finance 10 for a total of 16 units. Once you complete all these courses, you would be granted a skill certificate in financial management. I hope this was helpful. This is specifically for accounting and bookkeeping. We will try to cover other certificates here later on in other videos. Thank you for watching. Now I'd like to share an example for someone who maybe wants to obtain an Associate of Arts AA in Communication Studies, once again non-transfer. For that degree, one of the key things you want to keep in mind is that the major requires 18 units in the major, and that's what I'm showing you right here. Okay, this is what we know as a model program. So most AAs in Cabrillo non-transfer are considered model programs, and they all require 18 units in the major. Okay, so how you get this degree will basically go like this. Your general education is 30 units, and that was covered in another video, so you have to do 30 units of general education. And remember a minute ago I mentioned that you needed 18 units in the major. 13 units will come from this area right here. And then the remaining 5 units can come from this area right here, basically combining the 13 and another 5 for the grand total of 18 units within the major. Once we use our math skills, if we do 30 units of general ed and 18 units in the major, and remember you can kind of pick and choose how you put your major together with this one, you would have a total 48, basically leaving you with an additional not 10, but 12 units of courses that are numbered, in this case, 1 through 99, to reach a magical 60. Okay, so once again, to recap, the AA in Communication Studies non-transfer would require 30 units of general education, 18 units within the major, and here it will say 13 and 7, so that's an option, or you can just simply do 13 and another 5 for a total of 18. And so when you have your 30 and your 18 units, you would then do, instead of 10, you would do 12 units of courses numbered 1 through 99 to reach your magical 60. Okay. You have the option of taking any course numbered 1 through 199, or basically taking more courses from the approved electives to get these additional 10 or 12 units, whatever you need to get to the 60. So that would be the AA in Communication Studies at Cabrillo if you wanted to obtain. And if you didn't have that much time and you wanted to do something shorter, Cabrillo also offers, for example, a Certificate of Achievement in Communication Studies. For that particular one, it requires 16 units. 10 units are part of this part right here, so you would need Com 1 or 1 honors, Com 2, Com 6, and Com 7. Additionally, you would need another 2 3-unit classes from here, so like Com 4 and Com 10 or Com 12 and Com 8. It's really up to you. But you complete all of these, 2 of these courses for a total of 16 units, and we would grant you a certificate of achievement, in communication studies. So this is another example of degrees at Cabrillo or certificates that are not transferable. For those of you that are wondering, what is the smallest certificate Cabrillo offers? Well, here's your answer. Cabrillo's smallest certificate is a skill certificate in computer proficiency, and it falls under the CABIT major, Computer Applications and Business Technology. So this particular certificate basically requires that you do CABIT 101, CABIT 110A, and CABIT 110B for a total of 4 units. Once you have successfully completed these 3 courses for a total of 4 units, you would be granted a skill certificate in computer proficiency. Just in case you were wondering, that is an option. For those of you who are interested in looking into the allied health field, I'd like to bring your attention to the Dental Hygiene Associate of Science degree at Cabrillo. The reason I want to bring this up as an example is because this is a major that a student needs to complete prerequisites before they can actually apply into the program. Okay, and so those prereqs, in order for the student to apply into, in this case, dental hygiene, they have to successfully complete Bio 4, Bio 5, Bio 6, Chem 30A, even though it's not shown here, the student needs Chem 30A, Chem 30B, and a college composition course such as an English 1A. Once the student completes these courses with the appropriate GPA, because there is a GPA requirement, he or she is able to apply to the dental hygiene program. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is fulfilling the prereqs and applying to the program does not mean that the student is done with their other courses. Remember, all degrees at Cabrillo require general education. In this case, because this major is in Associate of Science, the student would have to complete the 21 units of general education. The beauty, though, many of these courses, or actually all of these courses, are part of the general ed, the English and the sciences. Now, in addition to the general ed and the prereqs, the student also has to fulfill graduation requirements, and that's this up here. So in addition to general ed and prereqs, a dental hygiene student would have to complete Com 1 or 1 honors or Com 2, Psychology 1 or Psychology 1 honors, Nutrition, Sociology 1 or 1 honors or Sociology 2 or 2 honors. And in case you're wondering, what are all these courses? What is Com 1? What is Soc 1? Is Soc 1 better than Soc 2? Those are all very good questions, and that's where you want to go in and look at the schedule of classes or the catalog to read the descriptions for these kinds of courses so that you can make the best possible choice. And in some cases, like nutrition and psychology, you don't have a choice. But when it comes to sociology, you do have a choice. Should I take Soc 1 or should I take Soc 2? So dental hygiene happens to be one of those special programs where, like I said, you have to meet prereqs before you can apply. The last part I want to talk about in this video is for a student who maybe wants to earn an Associate of Science in Early Childhood Education at Cabrillo. For sure, it's an AS and ECE. Because it's an AS, the student would have to complete 21 units of general education and 34.5 units of core requirements. For example, ECE 31 or 131, ECE 32 or 142, 34, 51, 52, 53, etc., etc. So the list, basically, it's all this list right here. In addition to that, the student has to complete one course in this area. So from all these courses, the student selects one course. Not all of them, but just one. And towards the very end, the student would then go into this area right here and select 3.5 units to take from these courses. Some of these courses vary from 1 to 3 units. So let's say, for example, EC 133 happens to be 3 units from one semester, then the student would have to pick one other course to make up that 0.5. Or maybe EC 134 is 2 units and ECE 134 SN is 2 units. That would be perfect. The student would be over by half a unit, which is okay. So at the end, the grand total would be 60 units. Okay, so this right here, being in an ASNEC, is a perfect example of a degree that anybody can get into. There is no prerequisites. There is no specific or additional graduation requirements. It's simply doing your general ed, your 34 and a half units of core, your 1 unit of special curriculum topics, and 3.5 units of electives. And once the student has completed all that, and they've earned 60 units with the 2.0, they will simply get an Associate of Science in ECE. Before I end this video, I'd like to basically mention that all this information is in the Cabrillo College catalog. So I don't have special access to it. Anybody has access to it. I hope this has been helpful. Please check with myself or another Cabrillo counselor for further clarification, or if you have any questions or something doesn't make sense. We're here to help you, but I think that the catalog is also very helpful, even though sometimes it might be a little bit confusing. We will work with you and we will partner together with you to make sure that you get your educational plan and you graduate from Cabrillo in a timely fashion. Thank you for listening.